Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Malai, and we're here with Rich Goteri, Scott Graham, and
Hello.
Ted Bettis is here with us too. Anyway, today we're going to talk about writing across vastly different experiences without, without writing stereotypes and that sort of thing. Um, so let's get started with it. It's a crucial and often delicate area of screenwriting. You know how storytellers can authentically and respectfully portray characters and experiences that are far outside of our own lives and our own realities, and sometimes it's easy to resort to stereotypes. If you're writing about a wise guy, it doesn't mean you have to be a wise guy. Sometimes it helps, but um, it's like you want to try to stay away from the stereotypes and be more engaging. Not harm the integrity of the story, but you know keep it keep the culture a little respectful, whichever dynamic that you're writing about and whatever genre you're writing about. So let's dive into some considerations and potential approaches that we can do that. The importance of why is probably at the top of it. Why are we choosing to tell the story that we're telling and about these characters, and is it driven by genuine curiosity, empathy, or the desire to amplify you know unprecedented voices that aren't usually heard, you know, you know, something that's, diverse. What is our intentions, while we're writing it, the foundation of the story. Deep and thorough research is usually needed. It goes far beyond, a quick Google search or, now you got Perplexity and you got Gemini, which has got some really good deep research tools in there. And it's just getting better and better to dig through it. And that way you can help recreate your character, create your character and give it some depth. It's like, hey, I used to love, so did Rich, going to the library and really doing some research. But even 40, God, hate to say it, 50 years ago, I used what was before the internet and before Google or anything like it, and was the I don't know how many states had it, but it was called the tip service. And I used to dial up, it was 888 and you dial in and say, hey, I got a question. Can you research this for me? And for free, they would research every subject, records, details, and they would get back to you within the same day. Sometimes it would take a week. They would give you updates by the phone of what it is. If there was literature or paperwork needed to be copied, they would actually have it waiting for you when you went down to the main library in Detroit. Sometimes they would even ship it to you for free. So that was so immersive in research and looking. Then Google started and the rest of it. So um,
Encyclopedias, remember that?
oh yeah, the encyclopedias. I had Britannica, I had all the
Yep.
volumes, and that was like, for historical research, but looking for documents and stuff like that and current stories and the microfiche from newspapers that was always available, trying to move that little square around, you know. There was a certain solace to it. You'd grab your microfiche, you'd go into a little room at the library, you close the door and and you'd go through it and you could hit a button, copy for 5 cents, then 10 cents, then 25 cents, then 50 cents over the years. And now it's like you print it out on your own stuff. But that microfiche is now available through every newspaper out there. But you have to pay for a subscription. You have to pay to get that thing. So it's still the copy. You're paying for the copies anyway.
There's one, you know what? There's one thing though that AI and Google and all that stuff really can't give you, and that's talking to real people about their
Oh yeah,
experiences. That's
getting to a real person too, and a lot of times tip helped you do that, that it would help you find that. Even through Google, you can find, hey, this person, let's go see if this person's alive.
Yeah,
Let's
talk
if
to them.
it's available. There's nothing like getting it out of the horse's mouth.
Right.
Especially having like remember Big Benny,
Yeah.
Rich?
Hmm.
Dude, the guy was 100 years old, drove to the set on a film, and the stories that this guy told were just priceless.
You're not gonna get those anywhere. Yeah.
He had his life was affected by the Purple Gang, and he lived a long life, outlived his entire family, and the guy was sharp as a tack. Right up to the end, he was telling the story and froze like that. It was like that for 2 weeks and died. So, where are you going to get that stuff? That is first person. That's the best, and that's where it comes from. That's where all the news sources try to get their information from, is first person. So, and that gets into direct engagement. Whenever possible, it's like that's the best thing. The other part is like talking to, those that knew that person. That's secondhand, you know. There's nuances and complexities to all of it, and the one thing you want to do is you want to avoid generalizations. You want to seek out those individual stories and make sure you have the rights to tell it. Rich and I have the life rights on a couple of people, and we're still waiting on those to finish up. But we have the life rights signed to us and to another writer that guarantees us, even though if they change their mind, we own their story. We have the rights to tell their story and to tell it and be respectful telling it. But it's like that is a key to it. There's another project that a person wanted to do that, and they don't have the life rights to that story, so they're risking it by telling that story or having to do a generalized story and not say, hey, this is this is about actual events that may or may not have taken place. So there's a difference to that. Collaboration's the key to any of it, and finding the right collaborators and the right advisors to be able to talk to. Um, Try to elevate your existing story. Be aware and be very clear about the story that you're telling, and about it. And if it's about a people, a nationality, uh, that has core customs and traditions and stuff, you want to be respectful about it, and you want to be accurate about it. So it's like second guess everything. I know Ted's working on a story that everyone in that story is dead, pretty much. That it covered, and that world is gone. Most of the records are very obscure and gone, and so it's like he's going on historical uh, information from one generation that was told to another, and notes and data, and some of the stuff can be found, but it's like being really respectful, even if they're bad people, and the bad ones on there, to tell the story correctly. One of the things I remember about Inglorious Bastards, it's like the role that Christopher Waltz played about this Nazi, this Jew hunter, the way they told the story and the way they brought it, and the depths that they told the story, and the accuracies, and the cruelty, even though he was seemingly, being nice and friendly, the cruelty that it extended to his character and how far it went. And watching a cult come full circle, he basically think he gets away with it, and in the end, it's without giving any spoilers to people that haven't seen it, it's epic, the way that was handled. But yeah, here's a bunch of Nazis. They were very respectful in the way they told the story, down to the accuracies, and even the nice parts of them, and showing the humanity of those people that were in there, and how they elevated it. And because we all have preconceived notions. None of us were really alive during that time, but I knew what happened to family members through other family members and through my parents. We're like the first generation after World War II, me and uh, uh, Rich is a little less, but it's like I remember those stories and the people that told those stories from all ends of it. We even had a a Nazi neighbor that ended up getting arrested as an old man. That we knew this guy all our lives. He lived in Warren. He was friendly. He used to give us candy. Nice guy. Helped my dad fix his car. And it was just like everyone's shocked. This guy killed I don't know how many was responsible for the death of I don't know how many millions of people. The devil always comes as an angel of light, and being able to tell that story and focusing on a universal humanity helps you tell that story in that way while respecting cultural differences and not hiding the horns, but maybe showing them in the pathway and but saying, hey, even Hitler held a baby. I mean, it's like there's pictures of him playing with kids and stuff like that. Here's the devil himself, playing with kids and showing a human side is just evil, either way. But not overly doing it. Avoiding also the tokenisms, they call it I can't say that word, tokenisms and the stereotypes basically. Beyond the surface level traits and things like that. Challenging the perceptions too of different things. That also shows that you're being mindful on your own biases. That's why you can't always use AI. AI is a great tool to have, but you gotta make sure, like when you're doing your research or you're trying to hem out a sentence or something like that, watch out for biases and assumptions. It's like make sure your own.
Yeah, it has to come from it has to come from your point of view of the way you feel about how the character feels and your what is your bias, what is your assumption. I mean, you don't want to use your own assumption. Be mindful of that. It has to come to the mind of the character and their point of view.
Yeah. Hey, why don't you take it on from that, Rich?
Just remember, guys, once your draft is complete, seek feedback from people who belong to that community they're writing about or have some sort of connection to the word to the topic. Since you don't know much about it, let them read it, let them hear it. Don't be afraid to get notes from those kind of people. Okay, it's important that they hear it also. Um, Also remember, instead of trying to represent an entire culture or group, because that's overwhelming, focus on a specific character, tell their story within the context, and explore the individual journey. That'll help you also. Um, and just be prepared for criticism. You're going to get criticism. That's what you want. This is the kind of notes that you really do want to get because you're writing out of the box for yourself, right? You're not writing about something you know about. So be prepared to do a couple of drafts on this. And there again, I say this every week, do not rush your drafts. This is not, you're not, there's no need to rush, right? The research is going to take a lot of time. So take your time, don't rush the process because the most important part is going to be the research in this thing before you begin it. And another thing, you got to ask yourself the tough questions because, you'll hear a good actor say, good actor really will say, that part is beyond me. That part, I can't play that part. You can't do everything. No actor can do everything. That's why actors turn down parts. So ask yourself, am I really the right person to tell, even though I want to tell this story, but am I the right person to tell this story? Right? What is my motivation to tell this story? Why am I trying to tell this story? Right? Am I adding value by writing this story? Am I causing harm by not telling the story properly? Am I willing to listen and take notes from other people who've been there or know more about it? So I think those are things that you really have to ask yourself when you're writing something that's out of your box, out of your wheelhouse. It's fun to me. That's the same thing with acting, creating characters that are not like myself. That's the fun part of it. For Mike and I, we like writing things that are not like ourselves. So we like the research. We like the digging deep. It's not for everybody. So again, am I the right person to tell the story? What is my motivation for it? Why am I putting all this work into it? Am I adding value to the story? Or am I hurting the story?
You know,
And am I work?
and bringing that up, saying what's my motivation for the story has to go beyond the money part of it. Hey, money's a big motivation. You're getting hired to write a story. But you know what? If you want to really write from the heart, you have to get into it. Have a motive. You have to figure out, why do I want to get engaged with the story? And that's what, like Rich says, sometimes you have to just say, I don't feel it.
Yeah, and there's no shame in that because the whole then maybe become a producer on this. So you try to raise money for it, or you hire the writer that can tell the story properly.
Right.
You know, so another thing is embrace the role of the learner. Approach the subject matter with humility. Really, you have to have a genuine. You want to have a genuine desire to understand the subject matter. Do you know what I mean? And even now, this is going to be hard to take too, but trust me, if you're getting hired to write something and somebody hires you to write about, let's say, the Holocaust, and they're offering you a hell of a lot of money, but you think it's beyond you, or you ask yourself those questions, and it's not for you, then you got to ask yourself a real big question: am I going to sell out and take this money, or am I going to be truthful and say it's beyond me? Right? And it's no shame in saying it's beyond me. Because you could do, if it's so beyond you, then maybe it's not for you, right? So it's just something, that's just, you got to ask yourself those questions,
Yeah.
you know. So I think it's important that we just be honest with ourselves, because you can put so much effort into something that is beyond you and it's not going to work for you. And you could, because then what happens is, when you do that, then you stop enjoying the process of writing. Then it becomes homework. Then it becomes something that you don't wake up every day with passion saying, today I get to write. Then it becomes like, when you're a kid and you have to do a subject in school like you hate, like today I have to learn French. It becomes painful. So you should have passion when you write, you know, and that's what we have for today. Hopefully it helps you guys. Don't be afraid to write outside the box, and make sure it's a passion project, make sure it's something you want to learn about. Make sure you use people that around you that can help you interview people, use the internet, use AI, use anything you can to learn as much about your subjects as possible. And don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. And just make sure it's the right project for you.
If I could just add to what you're saying,
Yeah.
my takeaway today, and I really appreciate this topic. You guys know I'm passionate about my sports story, and as much as I think I know about the sports industry and the behind the scenes, what the takeaway is for me today is I still need to do my research and be more humble about what I don't know, because I think I know a lot about it. But the truth is, I need to do that research and homework. So it's a good reminder for me that you do have to do that and do the due diligence and discipline, and not just
But
think you know.
but in your case, you like the sport.
Yeah.
So it's not homework. It's not something you detest.
Oh no, I'm looking forward to it, but it's a reminder. I got to do that extra research, not think I know everything. You know,
Yeah,
and do the homework.
it's a hard
Yeah.
pill to swallow, as my mother used to say.
And
Yeah.
and that's where, understanding screenwriting, understanding storytelling comes into play. It's like, hey, yes, there are a lot of tools these days that you can use, but to have a passion, being an expert in something, being knowledgeable about something. Hey, if I want to know about plumbing, what do I do? I call a plumber. It's like, somebody that understands it the best. And I know that my pipes are going to get done right, which is happening right now.
Right.
So it's plumbers do good plumbing. Screenwriters tell good stories. You know, uh, the person who experienced something that wants to understand how to tell that story, that's where like learning how to tell the story the right way, learning all the beats of saying, hey, that's to make it viable. Hey, I don't know how to tell a story. I don't want to learn how to tell a story, but I want to tell the story to somebody that's going to tell the story on my behalf. That's the other side of it. There's a lot of people that have stories that just don't want to, and we knew a guy, Big Benny, who, God rest his soul, the guy was telling you about that that was like 100 years old. The guy's experience, he offered it to Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg was so uh, uh, detested the Purple Gang so much that he wanted nothing to do with the project. And he said, "Thank you very much. I appreciate it, but I won't touch it. So don't tell me the story." He says, "You don't want to do it? I'm taking it to my grave." Wouldn't tell it to anyone else. That was the only guy, and he took it with him. I knew bits and pieces about it. Pretty sad, pretty dark portion of his life. He didn't want it. Spielberg, though he's told countless stories and countless genres and touched on so many different things, it was too close to him and didn't want to do it. Didn't want to glorify them in any way because maybe it affected his family or something else. But I thought, wow, that's a big stand to take to say, hey, this guy is leaving the earth and he wants to tell his story. And he's, nah, I don't want to do it. Sorry. You know. So it's sometimes you make choices. It's like, hey, do I want to tell that story? Do I want the story to die? But that's the core of screenwriting. That's the core of storytelling and screenwriting, and that leads to movie making. The division, right there. It's like, hey, what's the seed for all movies? A nice, tight screenplay, a well-developed screenplay, a story that can resonate. Maybe it only resonates for a certain genre, but you know that before you starting shooting frame one. You know, this is a story I want to be involved with. This is the story I want to take on. And uh, another fella that's working on a story that's very deep to him, Dino Kovas. That's a life experience thing. That's to me, after reading the script, that's an Oscar winner. I mean, it's beyond Oscar. It's really good. It's because it's felt from the heart. It's personal experiences, personal things that come on, and knowing how to tell that story the right way is really important before you put it. And if you can't let go and let somebody else, you get that screenplay and you sell it. And if you can't handle the fact that they're going to make changes and change that story around any way they want, then you got to raise the money and find ways to make that movie on your own, which could bring you back to us and to help you get to that point to make that movie. With the tools that we're going to provide for you. So that's a whole different story. So, and we can cover that another time.
All right. Well, cool, man. That's it for today, guys.
Sorry for the ramble.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it
Thank
as
you.
always.
Thank you. All right.